For millennia in a row, people around the world have been witnessing paranormal phenomena, and very often old houses and castles are places of anomalous activity. In this video, Top F will tell you about famous haunted houses, visit some of which are life-threatening. Grab your popcorn, we're starting. McPike's Haunted Mansion. In the U.S. state of Illinois, the city of Elton has its own haunted house, the so-called McPike Mansion. This house was built by its first owner Henry McPike in 1869, and to this day it does not cease to excite lovers of the paranormal and all residents of Elton. Although the building was supposed to be protected by the government, since it was included in the list of American landmarks, it was abandoned for decades at the beginning of the 20th century. But years later, already in the middle of the 20th century, the mansion acquired new owners. They were George and Sharon Lutke. Of course, the young couple, proud of their new purchase, began to build a marathon inside the building. But as soon as more significant procedures began than just dusting, the house seemed to come to life. Sharon was the first to see the ghost of the McPike Mansion. It was the ghost of a young and pretty woman in her 30s. After the incident, the husband and wife began to sort things out in the attic and, of course, found photographs there. The ghost of the woman seen earlier belonged to the former owner of the house, Sarah Wells. It was an amazing ghost, perhaps the most distinctive feature of which is to hug living people. Sarah constantly appeared unexpectedly and, opening her arms, approached the new owners of the house. When Sarah appeared in the room, an incredibly strong and persistent smell of lilies began to come from somewhere, which, apparently, Sarah loved very much. But one day, while working in the garden, Sharon noticed in the window of the second floor the silhouette of a tall man, whom she could not confuse with her husband. Sharon made an input that this is Sarah's husband, and he is watching her work. It happened repeatedly that the doors opened and then slammed shut as if someone had entered the room angrily. Sometimes, when George was on the ground floor, he heard children's laughter and low voices. Moreover, George and Sharon did not have children. Sharon woke up in the middle of the night from the fact that someone walked around the attic. They constantly heard steps and sounds. In the end, the couple could not stand it and invited the priests, and then the ghost hunters. All of them noted the presence of something or someone, but they could not drive away the ghosts. The Riddle House. The Riddle House is one of the most famous paranormal places in America. The mansion is located in West Palm Beach, Florida. This mansion was built by a wealthy owner of a local hotel, whose name was Henry Flagler. At the very beginning, this house was conceived as a mortuary, in which, moreover, the local funeral home was located. Despite the gloomy atmosphere of the house, its walls were painted with bright colors, which did not at all correspond to the theme of the building. The bright building became a landmark of the town, and the locals themselves, for the bizarre name of the walls, began to call the mansion the Spotted Lady. Not far from the mansion was a local cemetery, where it was customary to bury only the richest people who were part of high society. Due to the high status of people, the funeral was also very rich and luxurious. Often, very expensive things were placed in the coffins of the dead: watches, precious stones, or gold. Thus, this place began to attract a large number of robbers who, under the cover of night, dug up recently buried bodies to get all the valuable things. To fence off the cemetery from uninvited guests, it was decided to hire a watchman who was on duty at night. He was settled right in Riddle's house. It is with this man that the first frightening story of this house is connected. After some time, the watchman was brutally killed by robbers at his workplace, and from that moment rumors began to spread around the city that the embittered soul of the watchman continues to wander between the graves, waiting for his killers. Despite the frightening story, the mansion was bought by Carl Riddle, the local manager, and settled in the house with his family. But the mansion itself seemed to continue to attract misfortune. During the Great Depression, when many companies suffered from financial problems, one of Riddle's employees hanged himself right in the attic of his house. Since then, the servants, as well as family members, began to observe various paranormal phenomena. People claimed that at night, strange steps, gnashing, voices, and whispers could be heard within the walls of the mansion. In the end, the head of the family decided that it was necessary to say goodbye to this paranormal house, as it drove the whole family and the servants working in it crazy. Riddle put the mansion up for sale, hoping to get rid of it as soon as possible, but the notoriety of this place scared people away, so the sale dragged on for several years. In the next 10 years, the mansion passes from one owner to another, but no one stayed in the house for a long time. The house fell into disrepair, and the authorities decided to demolish the mansion, but Riddle's nephew decided to buy it in memory of his uncle and give it the status of a museum. To this day, inexplicable phenomena occur in this house, and employees daily observe strange shadows on the walls and various sounds at night. Bhangar Fort. Bhangar Fort is not just a house, but a whole city, or rather the ruins left from it. It is located in the west of India, in the state of Rajasthan. The place has been well preserved to this day. The distance from Delhi to the ghost town is about 230 kilometers. When approaching this mysterious place, a warning sign about the danger is immediately visible. Locals do not recommend visiting Bhangar. They believe that this place is cursed, and the local inhabitants of the city are ghosts. And visiting after sunset and before dawn is completely prohibited. This is also indicated by the sign at the entrance to the fort. History of Bhangar. This beautiful place originated in the 17th century. It was built by Man Singhai for his grandson. The fort was built not as a military structure, but rather as a city. On the territory of Bhangar, there were various trading shops, temples, and even a palace. The mystery of this place lies in the fact that one day the city became completely deserted. Houses and streets were deserted instantly. Scientists have found an explanation for this. Some say that hunger overtook the locals and they went in search of food. Some talk about a war that claimed lives. But no bones were found during excavations. Due to uncertainty, there are a lot of legends about this mysterious place. But two have become the most popular. Let's talk about them now. First legend. The first legend tells about the hermit Baba Balathu, who lived in those places. Before construction, Man Singhai came to a hermit for a blessing to build Bhangar. He agreed, but on the condition that not a single tower, not a single temple would ever cast a shadow on his possessions. At first, the words of Baba Balathu were remembered, but soon they were neglected, having built high towers. Then the hermit went up to the city, asking the builders to stop the further erection of tall buildings and demolish that which casts a shadow over his dwelling. But no one listened to the hermit. He was forced to leave these places, but before that he cursed Bhangar and its inhabitants. After a while, the city was deserted. And soon, the ghosts of these people appeared in the city. Second legend. The second legend tells of the unhappy love of the sorcerer Sinha for the beautiful princess Ratnavati. The princess was so beautiful that the richest and most noble suitors from all over India wooed her. The sorcerer understood that he had few chances to win the princess's heart, and he decided to use a trick. He brewed a special love potion for Ratnavati, added it to the perfume, and gave his gift to the princess maid. But she saw through his intent. Learning about who gave her the vial, the princess broke it on a stone. After that, the stone became huge and rolled toward the house of the black magician. All that Senha managed to do before his death was curse the princess and all the inhabitants of the city. He doomed them to eternal wandering, without the possibility of rebirth. Since then, the ghosts of the damned residents of the city have been wandering around the city. Our days. Now the deserted city is visited by curious tourists in search of adventure. But after dark, being on the territory is strictly prohibited. There is a heavy fine for breaking into Bhangar at night. Locals still do not visit this place and call it cursed. The local authorities wanted to put up a patrol there to prove that there were no ghosts on the territory, but there were no volunteers. Everyone refused to be in the fort. Many say that even now they see ghosts there. And residents claim that strange sounds, music, and screams are sometimes heard from Bhangar. There are even tourists who claim to have seen some entities in the city. Staying for a long time on the territory of Bhangar is also not allowed. It is believed that if you stay there for a long time, you will also fall under the curse of this city. This is such a creepy story. Another mystical place on the planet. After all, everything inexplicable attracts and interests even more strongly, right? If you are not afraid of ghosts, then feel free to head toward India. Include one of the most mysterious places on the planet in your itinerary. But at night it is dangerous. Not only do ghosts live in the city, but wild animals descend there at night. Wolfsegg Castle. Wolfsegg Castle is located 15 kilometers northwest of Regensburg, a Bavarian city on the Danube River in southeastern Germany. Regensburg is known for its well-preserved medieval architecture, which is why Wolfsegg Castle still stands today. The construction of the castle, dating back to the 13th century, or rather, its existence, has been known since 1278 and was built by a wealthy man known as Ulrich von Lauber as a strategic stronghold for the area. Erected for protection, it was never used as a defensive structure and mainly served as a dwelling for traveling troops. It was later abandoned. Such an ancient building, of course, cannot but have its mysterious history and at least one ghost. And the most famous castle ghost story is connected with the name of Clara von Helfenstein, the wife of the man who built the castle. According to another version, Clara lived around the 1500s, but her husband was the same Ulrich von Lauber. According to legend, the owner of the castle was often absent for various official business, and Clara herself either did not feel safe or was simply bored, but be that as it may, a man named George Mahler appeared in her life, with whom she soon began an affair. Ulrich found out about this and hired 2 local farmers to kill his wife. After Clara's death, a white woman began to appear in the castle, wandering the halls of the castle, especially in Clara's bedroom. Many believe that this is Clara's spirit, and she is also believed to be responsible for poltergeist activity causing disturbances in electromagnetic fields and causing strange light anomalies. As for the rest of the participants in the story, there is a version that later Lauber and his 2 children, both males, also died. There is no information about their deaths. Others claim that Lauber and his 2 sons may have been killed by George or Clara's ghost. As for George, the stories claim that he entered the forest surrounding the castle and was never seen again. And this happened perhaps because he entered a mysterious cave or hole, often called the Hole, which, as they say, is located in the forest, not far from the castle. Not everyone has seen it, but it is described as a deep crevice that was once explored, and a large number of bones were found in many of its chambers. Legend has it that many people, including Ulrich and his sons, went missing under mysterious circumstances in the forest and were never seen again. Some speculate that a monster lives inside the hole, and this may be related to the mysterious disappearances. A strange noise comes from the darkness of the hole, sometimes just breathing, and sometimes a lowing or growling, but the last thing that witnesses would describe as human. A theory among naturalists and geologists is that the noise came from an animal that was using the hole as a lair. Since the entrance was too steep for any large animal, it was assumed that this particular entrance was just an air vent, and the actual and probably more accessible entrance was elsewhere. In the depths of the hole, a system of caves and tunnels was discovered, where hundreds of bones were scattered. As established by the study, the bones belonged to animals. The White House. Yes, the last one on our list is perhaps the most famous building not only in the US, but throughout the world. The White House also instills fear in some of its guests. No one can explain the origin of paranormal phenomena in it for more than 2 centuries. What kind of ghosts are most often found within its walls? Ghost of the 16th President. The most famous ghost of the White House is the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. The 16th President of the United States lived in the mansion in the 1860s. Immediately after his death, strange things began to happen in the house. Suddenly there was a knock on the door as if someone was walking in the deserted corridors. However, there was no real evidence of the existence of ghosts in the mansion. Theodore Roosevelt was the first to encounter Lincoln's spirit. The meeting took place 40 years after the death of the American president. Roosevelt is known to have attempted to inherit Lincoln's policies during his reign. He repeatedly quoted his predecessor both in public speeches and in his writings. Therefore, the spirit of Lincoln decided to make friends with Roosevelt, periodically appearing to him in different rooms. Most often, the ghost of the president appeared before the onset of some kind of crisis. He wandered thoughtfully through the old mansion. Lincoln was seen not only by the residents of the White House, but also by their guests. In 1940, Lincoln's spirit took the British Prime Minister by surprise. Winston Churchill, upon arrival in the United States, stayed at the residence. He spent the night in Lincoln's chambers. Coming out of the shower in one dressing gown, Churchill saw a male silhouette in front of him. He recognized the thin man leaning over the fireplace as Abraham Lincoln. The politician was not taken aback and said, "Good evening. It seems, Mr. President, you took me by surprise." But the spirit decided not to continue the conversation and disappeared. A couple of years later, the ghost of Lincoln appeared before Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands, who temporarily stopped at the White House. The woman heard a loud knock in the middle of the night. She ran to the exit and saw a tall man with a beard and a top hat. Recognizing the guest as Lincoln, who died about 80 years old, Wilhelmina lost consciousness. When she came to, the ghost was no longer with her. The 33rd American President Harry Truman also spoke about the meeting with the spirit of Lincoln. He also mentioned knocking on the door that woke him up at night. The politician jumped out of bed, put on a bathrobe, and hurried to the corridor, but it was empty. The guards assured that no one except Truman entered his floor. But the president continued to assure that he heard someone's steps. He shared his experiences in letters to his wife. Truman asked her to return as soon as possible with her daughter, afraid of the paranormal. Spirit of Andrew Jackson. In addition to the spirit of Lincoln, the ghost of Andrew Jackson, who was the 7th President of the United States, lives in the White House. It was rumored that even during his lifetime the politician was a womanizer. Therefore, now only women see his spirit. Jackson continues to misbehave, appearing in the bedrooms of the fair sex. One of the employees of the presidential residence, Lillian Parks, said that she was very frightened when she was making a bed for Queen Elizabeth. There was no one in the room except the woman, but suddenly she felt a man's touch on her and heard a playful giggle. Lillian immediately guessed that the spirit of Jackson was playing a trick on her. Soldier with a burning torch. The ghost of a soldier in clothes worn during the Anglo-American War horrifies the inhabitants of the White House. He usually appears in dark corridors. The ghost holds a torch in his hands. According to one legend, the spirit of a rebel roams the presidential residence, which set it on fire in 1814. Since then, the silhouette of a soldier has been scaring all the inhabitants of the house. Once he went into the room of a married couple and went straight to bed. The man and the woman were so frightened that they told everyone about this incident for a long time. They said that the ghost looked very believable. It seemed to the spouses that he really wanted to set them on fire. Demon Cat. The most terrible ghost of the White House is considered to be a black cat with bright red pupils, which is at night. The residents gave the ghost the nickname DC, which comes from the English phrase demon cat. It looks like a small kitten, but if you get close to him, he begins to grow to the size of a tiger. Shooting a cat is useless. Bullets pass through the entity. Therefore, when meeting with a black cat, all that remains is to run. White House residents believe the meeting with DC is a bad omen. He appeared before the economic crisis of 1929, followed by the Great Depression. The cat was also seen before Kennedy's death. It is said that the spirit of the cat could appear in the mansion after the events of 1800. Then animals were let into the presidential residence to cope with the invasion of rats. After the cats caught all the rodents, they were put outside. But perhaps one of the rat catchers remained in the residence. Now his spirit roams the corridors of the White House and the backyard, scaring everyone around. That's all for today. Mr. Top F was with you. Bye. Thanks for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel and like this video if you haven't done it yet. Also, turn on notifications on our channel to catch all new videos. Bye.